How can an integration of Matterport plus Procore plus SimLab Stages help reduce construction rework and project duration, reduce documentation errors and omissions, reduce travel time of owner, architect, and contractor meetings, provide spatially contextual punch list items and issue tracking, RFIs? Stay tuned. Hi all, I'm Dan Smakrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Thursday, August 28th, 2025. You're watching WGAN TV Live at 5, a podcast for digital twin creators shaping the future of real estate today. We have an awesome show for you. Matterport plus SimLab Stages plus Procore for construction project management and collaboration. Our subject matter expert is SimLab Stages product owner Robert Charlewski. Robert, thank you for being back on the show.
Hi, Dan. It's great to be back on your podcast. I really appreciate the invitation.
You bet, Robert. For today's show, we will assume that our viewers are already using Matterport. And before we do a deep dive into Matterport plus SimLab Stages plus Procore for construction, project management, and collaboration, Robert, tell us the big picture about SimLab.
Well, SimLab is a Poland-based technology company specializing in interactive 3D digital twin software that transform Matterport digital twins into powerful operational tools for construction, for property, and facility management. Founded by experts in 3D computer graphics, simulation, and immersive experiences, SimLab develops solutions that make building data more visual, more interactive, and more actionable.
And one of your other products is SimLab Simon. Could you touch on that for a moment?
Sure. Simon is a facility and property management platform that extends the digital twin into operational phase. It integrates IoT devices control, asset tracking, maintenance scheduling, and ticket management within the same 3D interface. So Simon centralizes live building data from multiple IoT standards and building management systems, including KNX, SmartThings, Fibaro, NetEx Automation, IBM Maximo, and more, into one intuitive, spatially driven environment.
Awesome. Today's show about SimLab Stages. The big picture first, please, about SimLab Stages before we do the deep dive into the Procore integration.
Stages is a construction progress monitoring and communication platform that combines Matterport scans, BIM, CAD, and other formats to create a visual time-lapse history of a building. And it allows users to compare as designed and as built models side by side, track issues, and collaborate across disciplines, reducing costly errors, saving travel time, and improving stakeholder alignment.
Awesome. A lot to talk about today. Perhaps we could begin an introduction for this deep dive in the purpose and vision behind the SimLab Stages Procore integration.
Regarding the integration with Procore solution, our guiding idea was to create something that would allow Procore platform users to explore a project in a greater detail, while also enabling them to use a new type of material. I mean, this 360-degree scans for even more efficient project execution. Of course, we are well aware that Procore solution is a true market leader when it comes to project management tools. So our concept was to develop something that would give these platform users even more capabilities and in the future, perhaps enable the use of scans for managing already existing buildings, by which I mean leveraging our second solution, Simon.
Terrific. By the end of the WGAN TV podcast, what is it that you're going to cover for us?
First of all, I would like to show you the live demo. I would like to show you how to create RFIs, how to create punches using stages. Then also during the live show, how you can browse and edit those created items in the Procore site. Also, I would like to show you the documents repository integration, but it's because it's also included in whole integration process. And at the end, I would like to mention about the marketplace availability of our plugin or extension, if you can say like this. So that's in general my proposition of agenda for today's event.
Okay. Perhaps we could start with the key capabilities of the integration.
The key capabilities of the integration are as follow. First of all, possibility of creating RFIs and punches directly from the stages level. So the users can create those items using stages platform, and then if it's necessary, can equip those items in the Procore environment with some more detailed information. In the same mechanism of integration, we placed also the integration with documents repository. This part of integration is strongly related with already existed in stages feature documents repository. So we expand this feature for the possibility of browsing files and other documents collected in a documents repository on the Procore side.
Okay, great. I think this is probably easier to see than to hear. So perhaps if you could do a live demo, maybe beginning with creating RFIs and punch list items in stages. You want to go ahead and share your screen?
Yeah, would be great.
Yeah, and while Robert's setting up, there's you can either, for landing pages, you can either go to, Robert, feel free to share your screen. You can go to sim-stages.com, and the microsite is sim-stages.com/Procore.
Okay, so I think we can start our live show. And before I will start talking about creating RFIs and punches in stages, I would like to mention about some configuration matters. So first of all, as you can see, the project in stages, which is integrated or matched with the proper project in the Procore site, is marked with the small Procore logo. It is clear information for the users that this particular project contains or can contain some additional information like Procore RFIs or punches. Also, you can check the status of your integration with Procore solution in our settings. So if you go to the Procore settings, go to the integrations tab, you will see that right now my account in Procore and my account in Stages are connected. So this is the first thing. And if you will go to the project and take a look at the project info, you can see some additional information. So first of all, it's another information that the projects on the Stages side and Procore side are matched. But in addition, we can take a look a bit deeper, so we can see what is the name of the project on the Procore side, on the Stages side, and what's the name of the companies on both sides. And also, we can arrange data by date. This is a very important thing because we can assume that someone is guiding the project in Procore and collect some items like RFIs or punches already. Then he decides to join the project with the account and project in stages. And using this option, arrange data by date, you can download or import existing RFI or punches, and those items will be automatically injected, if I can say like this, into the project in stages. Our system will check the date of creation on every single item, RFI or punch, and if they find them matching, then we'll distribute those items to the particular stages. If not, all those items will be placed in the newest stage, and then user can manually transfer those items to the proper stages in stages. So that's some information about the configuration whole solution. And now we can start showing how the integration works in real life. So if the process of integration, I mean the matching projects between stages and Procore is okay, then under the plus button, user can see some additional icons. I mean, those icons are for the creating RFI and for creating the punch. When the integration is off, the user see only the icon for creating the nodes, right? Okay, so we can click this icon and we can see the new empty form for creating an RFI. All the fields and forms and buttons in this form are exact the same like in the Procore solution. Of course, they are arranged in another way, but this form, this panel contains all necessary files, fields and selectors to create RFI and punch. And in this moment, I would like to mention about one important thing, because in Procore, there is a possibility to create custom fields or forms for each separate project. If such a situation will appear, those custom fields will also appear in stages. So our integration mechanism is quite strong, and we can see all the fields, even those custom made for the particular project. So let's create a sample RFI. I will find some interesting place for it. Okay, let it be. So we can place the title or subject. Okay, then we can place the description. Please check the lights. We can use some additional options for editing the text in this place. So we can bold it, we can turn on the italic or underline. Then we can set up a due date. We can choose the RFI manager. We can choose the assignee. Let it be me for this place. And also we can expand panel with some general information. If they are existing on the Procore side, they will appear here in our form. So for example, I can choose the receiver form. Also, I can set up a location if it's defined, or for example, the RFI stage for the pre-construction. Okay. And right now, we filled all required fields for creating the RFI. So I can click the button create, and I have options, so I can create as a draft or create as open. Let it be as open. Okay, so I create this RFI, but also, of course, I can assign the place in the 3D space on the scan. So if I click this button, I can place the marker of my newly created RFI on this Matterport scan. What we can do more with the newly created RFI? First of all, we can browse the details of this item. As you can see, we have two tabs, main and general. In main, we have some main information. In general, we can browse some more details. But also, we can go to the menu hidden under those three dots, and here you can see that we can once again edit this RFI. We can view this RFI in ProcureSight, transfer it between different stages in our solution. We can close this RFI, and of course, we can delete it. So if I will choose, for example, edit, all the fields becomes active, and I can place some additional information, light bulb, for example. I have to click save, and all the changes will saved in this RFI. I can close this panel, of course, and newly created or all created RFIs or punches are displayed here in the annotations panel, and you can jump between nodes, which are native stages items, then for the punches and for the RFIs, and our newly created RFI is placed at the top of the list, so I can click on this line and see the details, browse them, switching between main and general tab, and also I can click the navigation icon and go to the marker of the node placed on a Matterport scan. Yeah. So that's how the creating of RFI looks like in stages. Of course, like I said, there is a possibility to browse the details of the RFI in ProcureSight. So if I choose from this menu,
Even before you show the viewing, you showed us creating an RFI. Is creating a punch list item just identical in the process? Just one is a request for information and the other is an action item that needs to be punched off the list?
Take a look. For creating a punch, I need to click on the punch icon, and very similar panel will appear. Of course, there are small differences because those two items are different in Procore, and they need to, they're using a bit different fields and drop-down selectors and so on. But the main idea of creating this item is quite the same. So you have to fulfill all the required fields, choose the proper options, and then after clicking the save, you have exact the same possibilities like in case of RFI. We can do this like this at this moment. So
not necessary.
Not necessary.
It works just like creating an RFI, so it's pretty straightforward. Perhaps, but how about you show perhaps viewing the examples of viewing RFIs, viewing punch list items?
Okay, so like I said, those in stages we can browse those items using the annotations tab. But when we need to check this on the ProcureSight, we have to mark interesting item. Maybe it will be a RFI light bulb. Okay, and then from the small menu under three dots, you can choose view in Procore. And if I click this, system takes us directly to this item on the ProcureSight. So we can see the number of the RFI, its title. We can prepare the response from this level. If I click add. Okay, so this is the right place or right moment to mention that the integration between Procore stages is bidirectional. So all created RFIs and punches on the stages side appear automatically in a ProcureSight. So some users can use the ProcureSight and add some additional information, details, files, and attachments on the in the Procore solution, and those changes will be visible on the Stages side. So this is the two-way bidirectional integration. That means that different users can work parallel on the same project or even the same item like RFI or Punch. Okay, so this was the creating RFI. Creating the Punch is, like I said, exactly the same. In case of the Punch, we have the same options also available, like viewing Procore, transferring, deleting.
Excuse me, if you could stay on this screen, but select the Matterport tab at the top.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm seeing, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're a Procore user and you're used to looking at information within a Procore menu list, you can do that. But perhaps you could speak to maybe perhaps the advantage of Matterport plus SimLab Stages integrated with Procore.
Sure. Let me stop sharing my screen because I think it's not necessary at this moment. And
I guess my impression, Robert, is I'm visual, and it's way easier for me to look at that room with everything that's been tagged and look for RFIs in that room as opposed to going to a list, a long list of items, whether it's the RFIs or punch lists. So I imagine that's one of the key benefits of having the Matterport plus SimLab Stages tight integration along with Procore is the ability to view everything within a 3D container.
Definitely yes, because one of the main features of the integration between Procore and Stages is the possibility to placing the markers of the RFIs and punches exactly the same way like the markers of the Stages native nodes on the Matterport scans. And in case, because it's also important, this integration works not only for the web version of Stages. This integration works also in a desktop version. And the desktop version, as you probably remember, the main difference between those two versions is that in the desktop, you can use much more file formats. So in case of web, you can browse the Matterport scans. In case of desktop, you can browse and use scans, but also IFC visualization, FBX, OBJs, PDFs, and so on, so on. And if some of Procore users will start working with our integration using desktop version, we will be able to place those markers, RFIs, punches, also on other components, not only Matterport scans, but on the floor plans, on the visualizations, on the matter packs, for example, and so on, so on. So yes, from the visualization of this integration, meaning the placing those markers on different components, not only scans, but different components, is one of the strongest advantages of this whole mechanism.
Would there be a reason for people in the construction space to put RFIs, punch list items within a point cloud? Or no, it's really something that it's a Matterport tour or a photo or a floor plan.
Honestly, it depends, because we know that there are users that loved point clouds, for example. And for some of users, working with the point clouds is the most important feature. So yes, it is also possible that you can place those items, those markers on a point cloud. I think that one of the important things, if we are talking about the integration between Stages and Procore, is that components like for example, floor plans or even visualizations that are collected in a documents repository on the Procore side can be used as a component in stages. But I think that I can tell about it when we go to the integration between documents repositories.
Show us that. That would be great.
Okay.
And again, while you're setting up for our viewers, the website is sim hyphen stages.com/Procore.
Like I said at the beginning of our meeting, the integration between those two repositories, I mean the Procore and Stages, is related with the feature which was previously developed by Stages, because we created documents repository a bit earlier before we start working with Procore integration. How to get to this documents repository? You have to go to this left panel and click on the Documents button, and it will open the new view with the list of the files uploaded to this document repository. It is worth to mention that every single project in Stages has its own documents repository. They are not mixed. It's not a common virtual drive for all the files. They are splitted by projects. And as you can see, in this view, in this project documents repository, we have two tabs, Stages and Procore. That means that those documents are not mixed. Those files are kept separately. Stages and Procore are splitted, if I can say like this. They are not in the same one container. So I can browse the documents or files, in fact, collected in the Stages repository, but I can also jump to the Procore, and then I should see the hierarchy of the catalogs of the folders created on the Procore side. In this particular case, there is only one folder, documents, and if I click on it, I can see the files collected in this folder. There is also a subfolder named demo folder. And what we can do with the files collected in Procore site, on the Procore site. Of course, we can browse it. We can change the type of the view, but also we can search it. And if we click on these three dots on the end of the line, we can also see some details about this file. Copy this file, this particular file, to the Stages repository, and last but not least, we can download this file on a hard disk of our machine. That's why I mentioned about it during my previous part when I was talking about the desktop version of Stages, because we can use different files collected in a Procore site as a components in Stages. So, for example, if someone will put here in a Procore repository floor plans or visualizations, or even mentioned by you the point cloud, we can copy this file to our repository and then create a new component and select this file as this component for further use. This operation, I mean, this copying files between repositories is created because we don't want to mix those files together. It's better we want to maintain order in all files collected on both sides. That's why we are not taking this file to our repository. We are only copying it, and then it can be used in a different ways. But if you are talking about the documents repository at all, it is worth to mention that we can collect here all the files we need, or maybe all files which can be somehow used in project. So we can put here pictures, documents, sounds, movies, and so on and so on. And those files can be used as attachments to nodes, for example, or attachments to RFIs or punches. Those files can be used as a components in particular stages. And what is also interesting, if I will create a node in stages and attach to this node, for example, a screenshot, this screenshot will automatically saved in this document repository. So we can upload or collect the files, necessary files, in two different ways in case of documents repository.
Robert, what's the experience like on site? What device might someone be using, and how might they be interacting either with Procore or with SimLab stages or both?
I'm not sure if I understand which devices you have on in mind.
Well, for example, let's say I'm the electrical contractor. I'm working through the punch list on items that have been identified for electrical. Is the anticipation is that I'm using for example, an iPad or an Android tablet,
Okay.
and now I'm going through my punch list, and as I complete the punch list, I am checking it off that it's been done, and then sort of kind of what happens, So really the first part is I'm on site. What device or devices am I using, and how's that integrated both with Procore and SimLab stages?
I think that in this particular case you just described, I am on site and doing something like an inspection, for example, right? So I think that the tablet in general would be the best choice. First of all, because the size of the screen is much more easier and more comfortable to work with 10 or even 13. Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing is you could use a smartphone, but really a tablet's going to be the best
Exactly.
choice.
But there is one important thing. Its device is one part of whole thing. But it is important to know that web version of stages can be used on a different operation systems. So you can launch web version of stages on Windows, on Android, and on iOS devices. And of course, you will see all the created items like nodes, RFIs, and punches. You can also create a new one, and they will be automatically synchronized with the Procore site and will be available from the web browser level, from your computer, from your laptop, and of course, from the desktop version level too.
All right, let me see if I understand this. So if I'm in the office, that's really the place that a point cloud, a big document's going to be uploaded. It's not from the tablet. The tablet is in the field is really an experience of being able to view the punch list items, view the RFI requests, the RFIs requests for information, view any type of attachment that has been added either to the RFI or to the punch item. And then in addition, to be able to use the tablet to be able to take a photo to say, hey, here's the work's been done, here's a picture of it. Or I've taken a picture on site and then I've circled it to indicate here's where you want to look for where that change was made. Am I understanding that correctly?
It's 100% correctly. I cannot describe it better, to be honest.
Okay, awesome. Really, the person in the field is able to do the work they need simply on a tablet, whether their preference is Android or iOS, an iPad, for example, and either working through the punch list or working through the RFIs, or actually identifying issue. Maybe it's a safety manager on site walking around taking pictures of, hey, this this trash on the 2x4s needs to go away. We don't want that going down some drain pipe or something. So, get rid of it.
Exactly.
So all those things can be annotated within the field using the iPad or
For
Android
example,
tablet.
or
Yeah.
Android tablet. Yes, that's the scenario we can call, we can imagine that someone is doing the inspection on the site, and that's the mobile device is the best choice because he can easily create the new node, new RFI, new punch, equipped with the picture, for example, very, very easy. And then, if it's necessary, equip those newly created item in the office with some more details.
Okay.
But
So,
the
so
speed
if I
of
may,
creating.
if I may, let's talk about the spatial view, the spatial data, the three-dimensional model. If my workflow has typically been to use Procore and look at a list, what's the advantage now that we've added Matterport plus SimLab stages to Procore for that person in the field?
Mhm. Uh, First of all, I think that the greater advantages is the more detailed image because using Matterport scans, which can be displayed in the integration mechanism with Procore, we have much more details, much more information that only the text described or pictures attached as a file to the RFI node or RFI or punch from the Procore level. So
I would imagine kind of the old school version. Here's a picture of an outlet or something and says, hey, the outlet's not working, but you don't have any context of where it is within that room. With Matterport, you go, oh, it's on this wall in this
exactly.
location. I immediately know from looking at it visually within the Matterport tour exactly where that RFI request is or where that
Mhm.
punch list item is. Is that
Yes, especially that in case of RFIs, punches and nodes created in stages still working the mechanism guiding user to the particular node placed on a scan. So you can search the nodes or RFIs using the view with the annotations, then click on the navigation icon, and then it will be showed exactly in the exact place when the problem is detected.
okay? Awesome. Before I ask you a little bit bigger picture about the benefits beforehand, I believe you had a video that you wanted to show. Is this a a good time to show that video?
Yes, I think it's a good moment for showing this. Just very, very briefly, we just made a kind of a proof of concept, which is showing the mobile application using the augmented reality uh, in 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 cooperation with the nodes, RFIs, and punches. So, if it's a good moment for showing this video, I would like to do this. Okay. Now I have to share my screen. Okay.
So if I understood that video correctly, I could do wayfinding or go from point A to point B, either based on a punch list item, an RFI, or even an attachment.
Exactly. That's how it works. I
And I
really like
believe
it.
and I believe at the very beginning of the video where I saw a little bit of this going on. So this was helping the app know exactly where in the space.
Yeah.
And then, so that's kind of registering the device with the space, and then to be able to say, okay, this is where I want to go. So
Yeah. In
what's
other words, device must catch the fix, like a GPS, for example.
can you speak a little bit more about what you just showed this video? Because this seems like super exciting in terms of this integration within Matterport plus SimLab plus Stages plus Procore.
You know, we were thinking about the augmented reality in our solution for a long time, and a few months ago we started working on it. The main idea was to create a tool for displaying the path for the markers of the node, but it's not our last word, if I can say like this,
Yes.
because
It's
we are.
available today, but every day it's going to get better.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And also, we would like to place this solution in our second product, Simon, which can be, for example, equipped with some additional options like displaying the instructions, displaying the tutorials for the servicemen or something like this. But also, I think that I think that it should be possible to do something like bidirectional video. So, for example, me with the cell phone displaying the current image of the object, and from the other camera, the guy from the office telling me which part of the device I should remove to fix it, for example.
So I
So
imagine on a construction site, 100,000 square feet, 250,000 square feet, there's an RFI. You're in the walls are not even up. Like the question is, well, where is that problem? Where is that RFI? Where is that punch list item? That
mhm.
the ability to do wayfinding based on an RFI, based on a punch list item, or even based on a document within those categories, it sounds like a super time efficient way without everyone say, hey, Steve, where is that point that I got to go find?
That was the main idea. That was the main idea, to create a tool which allows to users or any other people who doesn't know the object very well. The tool could show him the path or make the service of some devices easier, because they can easily find the right place, even if they are not don't know the object or don't know where this part is installed. So that was the guiding idea for us.
Awesome. Let's take it back up to the big picture in terms of user benefits.
Mhm.
You've showed us how to create RFIs, how to create punch lists, how to view RFIs, how to view punch lists, how to annotate, how to add documents, either from the field or back in the office. You showed us the document repository that's both on the side of SimLab Stages and on the side of Procore. What's this all mean in terms of benefits?
I think the one of the most important benefits in this particular case is improving efficiency and collaboration. Because by integrating both platforms, project stakeholders can work in a single environment, sharing data and updates instantly. So this eliminates silos and ensures that everyone from the field team to the office is always on the same page. Then we can talk about the reducing manual data entry, which is very important in my opinion. Information only needs to be entered once. nodes, punches, items, or RFIs created in stages are automatically synced to Procore, which saves time and significantly reduces the chances of the human error. Now, the next thing, the seamless workflows across platforms. Users can move from capturing issues on site in stages to tracking and managing them in Procore without interruptions. So this creates a smooth end-to-end workflow that combines the strengths of both tools. Reduce construction rework with accurate, visual, and up-to-date information available to all parties. Misunderstandings are minimized, so this helps avoid costly mistakes and rework caused by missing or outdated data. Reducing construction project duration when communication and task management are faster and clearer, issues get resolved more quickly. That accelerate decision making and shortens the overall project timeline. And also, we can talk about reduced documentation errors and omissions. Since documents and notes are linked directly to the correct spatial context, there is a less risk of losing track of important information or attaching it to the wrong part of the project. Another advantages, another benefit is the reducing travel time of owner, architect, and constructor meetings, because virtual site access in stages allows stakeholders to review progress, verify work, and resolve issues remotely. This reduces the need for frequent site visits and saves significant travel time. So I think that there is a lot. Last but not least, get more business by growing clients. Delivering project with fewer delays, fewer errors, and cutting-edge visual platform creates a strong impression on clients. It shows professionalism and innovation, which increases trust and can help win more projects.
So if I imagine in every organization, there's people who are forward thinkers and there's people maybe who are laggers. For the forward thinkers that go, oh, spatial view of the punch list, spatial view of RFIs, that's awesome. Let's get going. For those that like looking at lists from Procore, they can continue to do that.
Yep. Both of the groups of those users can work parallel in the same project using the favorite tools or favorite approach for the project.
And then at some point when perhaps those that are used to looking at Procore in a certain way could go, oh, there really is, I now can see the RFI, the punch list item within that 3D environment in order to really, for all the things that you've described, be more efficient at finding it and solving it and checking it off the list. If I'm in the midst of I'm watching today's WGAN TV podcast, I go, oh yeah, I get it. I'm ready to get started, but I'm halfway through a project. Do you really need to wait until you're at the beginning of a project, or no, you can link your Matterport plus the SimLab stages plus Procore, and if so, then what happens? Because I'm in the middle of a project, but I still want to do this migration.
Yes, that's no problem. If someone would like to join the project, existing project in Procore side with the newly created project in stages, that's no problem, because like I said at the beginning, there is a mechanism in stages which download the already created items like RFIs and punches to the stages, and then they can be manually placed in the different stages of the project, or can be stored in one stage as a kind of a container for all necessary RFIs and punches. That's no problem.
So if there are outstanding RFIs and punches, and you do that initial import, then you're simply, perhaps, is it just drag and drop and just place that RFI
something
in
like
the
this?
place?
Yes. You can pick every single RFI or punch and point to which stage it should be moved.
Okay, so I'm a Procore customer. I'm also doing Matterport. How do I go find this SimLab Stages integration?
Our integration, I don't know how to say, the plugin or extension is present in a Procore marketplace. So our integration mechanism with Procore has been thoroughly reviewed and verified by Procore specialists, and as a result, it is now available in the marketplace together with the all necessary supporting materials. That means that any interested user can easily download it and activate in their chosen project.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to run just through some websites for those that want additional information.
Exactly.
The parent company, SimLab, you can go to simlabinc.com. You can go to the SimLab Stages microsite, which is sim-stages.com. And there's even a microsite for the Procore integration. That's at sim-stages.com/Procore. On any of those SimLab pages, you can look for the Contact Us tab and fill out a form and have a representative of SimLab get back to you. We did mention at the top of the show another SimLab product called SimLab Simon, and that microsite is sim-on.com. Again, you can just go to simlabinc.com and go off to any of these sites that I've just mentioned. And then I'll also mention, since we've done so many SimLab Simon, SimLab Stages shows on WGAN TV podcast, you can find all those shows at wgan.info/SimLab on WGAN. Robert, I want to add one thing for some of our viewers that are Matterport service providers is we really wanted to show you this integration, not that you're going to go off and do it yourself, but it really should clue you in that if you're doing construction progress monitoring, Matterport scans of construction sites on an ongoing basis, you may want to ask your client to say, hey, are you presently using Procore? Because now the addition of Matterport plus SimLab Stages plus Procore enable all these benefits that Robert has talked about, and the deeper the integration that your client is doing likely means more Matterport scans for you. So there's a way for you as a Matterport service provider to help your client succeed faster by encouraging them to take a look at this integration. Again, Matterport plus SimLab Stages plus Procore, and plus with your skill in scanning construction progress monitoring, it just kind of ensures that the client wants to continue to do the scanning and also maybe even pick up the frequency, because it just enables this exciting piece of RFI's punch list. And we barely have covered some of the fully understanding SimLab Stages, and Robert has done an excellent introduction to SimLab Stages show with us. So if you really want to do as a next step a deeper dive into SimLab Stages plus Matterport, there's a WGAN TV Live at 5 show on that. Robert, before we wrap up, I just want to kind of ask this question again, is what is the importance of a spatial data, a three-dimensional view, a Matterport tour, that what is the value of being able to view a space when it gets added to Procore?
All the details are much better visible when you're browsing the 3D dimensional scan or something similar. You are not working only with the flat drawings, flat files, but you can go through your project and you can easily mark all those places which are require your attention or any other care. So That's in my honest opinion, that's the most important thing.
And if one of our viewers was trying to describe to a colleague what Matterport plus SimLab Stages plus Procore is all about, maybe if you took 30 seconds, again, how would you describe that Matterport plus SimLab Stages plus Procore integration?
Matterport is providing excellent images, excellent scans. The Stages is kind of a build up on it, allowing to tracking progress of the work because you can add different scans, place it on a timeline, generate the reports and making the annotations. And in addition, when the integration between Stages and Procore is on, they can use all those benefits, all those tools provided by Procore, managing the costs, managing the orders, materials, using the documents or any other files collected on the Procore side. So those three elements in one, giving the users really strong tool, powerful tool for guiding the project.
Awesome. And I'd add three to that: saving money, saving time, and being efficient, which you identified earlier in the show. Robert, thanks for being back on the show.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure for me.
We've been visiting with SimLab Stages product owner, Robert Charlevsky. For Robert, I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum, and you've been watching WGAN TV live at 5.